Hey everybody, so I'm really looking forward to the time we're going to spend together today because we are going to talk about how to create an animated scatter plot. A few weeks ago, we did an animated erasing bar chart, and today we're going to do an animated scatter plot that will show you how data and information changes over time. So in this case, it's from 1990 all the way to 2017. We're going to do this video here that I uploaded a few days ago to YouTube, and it shows you how the amount of years that children spend in school or expected to spend in school in each region of the world or in each country or continent, how it changes over time. And that's usually what you use animated scatter plots for, or bar charts and other charts we'll do in the future. It helps you show people, show yourself how data and information changes over time and what kind of trends you see happening over time. Okay, so to do this video, we are going to use this data right here. And this is from the World Bank, I think. You have the link below the video. Make sure you go below the video, open the description, and open all the links in the description so you can follow along. It'll be a lot easier. In this case, we're going to use 3 or 4 main columns. We're going to use the country name, maybe the country code, the indicator name, but here there's maybe like 100 or 150 different rows for every region of the world or for every country. We're only going to use 2 rows. We're going to use the expected years of schooling female and schooling male. So we're going to use these 2 for the years of 1990 all the way to 2017, all the way to the end. So the top one is female and the bottom one is male. So this is an Excel sheet. Download it on the link below. And then we're going to go into the code in order to process everything and create that animated scatter plot. Okay, so you want to start with these basic libraries from Plotly. We're going to use Plotly Express to make this scatter plot. So make sure you import these libraries into your code. I'm using this environment. I named this environment Dash, which means you can name it whatever you want, but this is using version 1.0 of Pandas and 4.5 of Plotly. So you might want to use similar versions or not too far off, so it doesn't give you any errors. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a list of years from 1990 to 2017, because we'll use that later. And then we're going to import or put into a data frame, a Pandas data frame, the Excel sheet, the gender stats. And then we're going to do our first filtering stage. We're going to take from the indicator name column, we're only going to take those rows with the values of this, expected years of schooling, female, and the same thing for male, because we do not want other rows or other values. So only these 2 for all those years. And then we're going to group by the data frame. We're going to group by the country name, the code, you might not need this, and the indicator name. And we're going to do the average of all the years. So remember, the years is from 1990 to 2017. We're only going to take these years into account because we don't want 1961 or anything before or after that. Now I put mean, you can put sum, it doesn't really matter because each year has only one value for female, one for male, and then another year just female, just male. So whether you put mean or sum, it doesn't matter, you'll get that number. You're not going to get anything else. All right, so this is what let's see what we created, just so we can, it's easier to follow along. All right, save this. So we see that we have 2 for each country because we're only taking the expected years of female and male. And for each year, 1990 all the way to 2017, we have a value. Well, some of them don't have values because of how the country collects data, but if they do, they're here. So you see Albania has for female 11 years expected years of schooling. For female and for male the same, but for 2014 now females are expected to be in school a bit for 1 year more than males, than boys. All right, so we have this chart Perfect. That's what we wanted to see. And now, let's go back to this. And now I'm going to create a list because I want to filter even more. I don't want all those countries. I just want those specific regions. So I'm going to put the list here, and then I'm going to filter the list down below. We'll do this later. So here I'm going to say, give me a data frame, a copy of that data frame, where the country name, where the list of all the world regions that I chose is going to be in this column country name. So only want those column values, nothing else. So I'm not going to get other countries, just these regions or these countries, whatever I put in the list. So now it's filtered, and now you don't have to do this part, but it makes it nicer. I'm going to sort the regions that we chose right here in this order. I want European Union to be first, then Latin American, and then East Asian, and so on, because it just looks better because European Union has the highest amount of children expected in school than Latin American, so it's it's easier to read. And this actually finishes the sorting, so it executes it. And the last thing I'm going to do before we create the figure is we're going to use pandas melt. You can read a little bit more about pandas melt here, what it means. Pause the video if you need to and read about it. But what it is, it's actually taking all the year columns you see from 1990 all the way to 2017. That's like 28 different columns. We're going to put it into one column, and all those years are going to be distributed in rows. And the same thing with their values, their respective values are going to be distributed right next to them in rows as well. And I'm doing this because when I'm going to create the animated scatter plot, I'm going to animate the frame by year. So I'm going to create all these frames by year. And to do that, you need it to be in one column. You need the years to be in one column with all the rows as opposed to 28 different columns. So this is how you do it. This is how you use Melt. You can read more about it and practice it at home. But once you do this and you print it out, this is what happens. Let's see. You see, so now you get South Asia, only 2. You have for female, for male for 1990, and their respective value for female and respective value for male. And then I'll go into 1990 for the other regions that we chose in the list. And then it repeats South Asia again for female and male, but now it's 1991 and the rate for the female, the number of years, and the number of years for the male or for the boys, and so on until 2017. And in this format, the figure, the scatter plot, can read different frames and can actually do animated plot. Okay, so let's build the figure, the animated scatter plot. So I'm going to call the method scatter on the Plotly Express, and we're going to fill out all these parameters. Now, what I would recommend is going into the documentation in Plotly Express and read, this is a scatter plot, and read all the things that you can do, all the parameters that you can do within the scatter plot. Pause this video, take a look at it, and just read, because we'll go over some of these things. In the next video, we're going to create in this Plotly graph series, we're going to go fully into the scatter plots. You're going to learn a lot more about the scatter plots. But here we'll do just the animation. So we're going to tell it that we're going to use this data frame, the DF. The x-axis, we're going to use the rate, as you saw here. We're going to use the number of years in school. The y-axis is going to be the country name, because on the left side on the y-axis we want the different countries or the different regions. The color is going to be indicator name. That's also going to be the legend. And what this means is either going to be, it's right here. So the color is going to be divided into two different colors, one for female and one for male. So 2 markers, 2 scattered dots for each country. South Asia, for example. One is going to be female and one is going to be male. And then we're going to do an animation frame is going to be year. So here we're going to say that every year, every frame is going to be a year. So it's pretty much going to do all this right here and repeat it from 1990 all the way to 2017. And this is what the year allowed, but remember this has to be one column. Then whenever you do an animation frame, you want to make sure that you set in Plotly Express, you set the range of the x-axis, because if not, it moves around if the ranges change. So it's good to change it, to set it, sorry. So I'm going to set it as world x range, and this, close this, actually comes from here. It's a list of from 4 to 19. So you're only going to have from 4 right here all the way to 19. I'm not going to have more than that or less than that, and that's going to stay there. It's not going to bounce around. And the Y range is also going to be from minus 0.5 to 5 because there's only about 5 or 6 countries, so I don't want more than that. I chose a title. And then the labels I'm changing because on the x-axis I don't want to see rate, I want to see years a child is expected to spend at school university. And the indicator name, I just want it to be gender. So in this case, the indicator name is the legend, and I wanted to just say gender instead of indicator name, so I did that. All right, now we're going to update the layout, and the layout is a few things that you can't really update here. So here I'm updating the title of the graph. Here I'm saying I want it to be in the center of the graph, right above it, and I want the font size to be 20. The x-axis, I want the size of the title on the x-axis to be 20 as well. Now you can do it in this way, either dictionary, title, dictionary, font, dictionary, or you can just do it this way, just a Pythonic way of writing dictionaries. So y-axis, I'm going to put title and the text none because I don't want any text on the y-axis. Usually it will say name of country or a country name. I don't want that. I just want the region, so I'll take this out. And the legend, also I'm going to give it a size to the legend title and to the legend sub-legend text. It's going to be 18. Okay, so I have the graph and I have the scatter plot, and now everything is supposed to work. This part is kind of like a bonus, an extra, that you don't need to implement this, but it'll be it's helpful to know how to play around with it if you want to. This is really going into the details of the color of the markers or the size of the markers, or changing the legend name, because you can't do that necessarily from here. So the way to do that is by going into the details. So one of the first thing I wanted to change in this part is the duration of the frames from from the times that it jumped from 1990 each year to 91 to 92. I think by default is 500 milliseconds, half a second. I want it to be 800 milliseconds. And then transition from the marker right here. This is the transition, how it moves. You see how the green moves this way back and forth. This is a transition. So it takes the same amount of time, 800 milliseconds. You can play around with it and change it if you want. But this is, it took me time to get to it. The way I got to it, I just printed out the layout because I wanted to see what it would give me. So let's print the layout and see what it gives us. Remember, update menus. This is actually the way to go to get into the button. So I wanted to see how I can go into the button and change the duration of the frame and the transition. So I printed the layout here, and this is what I got. I got x-axis, y-axis, and I got all these arguments for each year, but you don't really need to pay attention to that. You just need to go into the button, which is inside the update menus. So I went into the update menus here. I put 0 because I want the first section of the list. Then I went into the button, 0 again because button is also a list, and that allows me to go into the arguments. I went into the arg, I went to 1 because none would be technically 0, the first element of the list, and 1 would be the second element of the list, would be this. and then I went into frame, and then I went to the duration of the frame, and from 500 I changed it to 800. So this took me about 10 minutes to figure out. It's not like I knew this sentence or this line of code immediately. I just dug in there, tried different things, and slowly I got to it. So in essence, this is the same thing I did with print fig data to reach these things, right? I'm not going to print it now because it's exactly the same thing. I went to data. I wanted to see how I changed the name of the legend from girl, whatever it was, to girl, and then to boy. And the data, I also changed the size of the marker, and I changed the color of the marker. This update size is just two different ways of doing it. You can do it this way, or you can do it this way, equals. This is exactly the same as doing data. This is exactly the same as doing data dot update parentheses name equals, and then we'll put girl. This is exactly the same as the left part. So I'm using this technique down here. Okay. All right. So I updated. Now all this, when I'm updating all this, I'm only updating the data, like the first frame that comes out into the web page. But updating the color of the marker and a few other things is only for the first frame. That means the other frames, if I don't play around, if I don't change the color of the data, or sorry, if I don't change the color of the markers in all the other frames, then I would only have it on the first frame, and then the color will go back to its original default. So I have to go into each and every frame. And what do I mean by this? So every, where is it? Right here. Every argument, every frame, or every figure has a data and a layout, and then it has frames. And so this goes into the data of the scatter plot right here, and this goes into the layout, but now I have to go into the frames. Now, you don't have to, but I wanted to because I wanted to change the color. And frames also has data and layout, okay? So I realized that if I only change the color and the size, or the color and the size of the data, the first frame, it's going to go back to its default color in the other 22 frames. So I created a for loop. It went into the fig frames, and you can print this out, print fig frames. And then I found how to reach the color of each gender. This is for the girls, and this is for the boys. And I changed a marker for each one of them for 27 different times, because there's 27 or 28 different frames. So now the color will stay the same of the markers throughout the whole frames. And that is it. And then I printed it. So you have the girl, the boy in the gender, you have the years a child is expected to spend at school as the y-axis, and now you can play it. You see that each year it takes 800 milliseconds instead of 500. The girls and the boys will move according to their region and their rate, the amount of school they're expected to stay in. So it's really cool. It's an awesome chart. You can play around with this. You can create different data sets. And you can do it. This is called like a dot plot. It's a version of a scatter plot, but you can do it with a scatter plot as well. So as you can see, this is a bit different than the video. In the video, I put Europe and Africa, but I gave you some of that information that you can do on your own, because it's very similar. Once you know how to do world, then you can do Europe, you can do all the others. So I put this for you here. I took these countries out of Europe. You can take whichever countries you want. I put these in Africa, so you can use this list. Let's say Europe if you want to change that, and just put it here, the Europe in the country name. And the range, I already did this for you to help you. So the X range will be from 10 to 20. Remember, you have to lock the X range, the X axis, when you do an animated scatter plot. And for the Europe, you want to do from 10 to 20. Or you can do whatever you want. Change it from 9 to 20 or 9 to 15. You can play around with it. In Asian Latin years, these are for the Asia Central and for Latin Caribbean. They don't really have a lot of information from 1990 to 2000, at least not these countries. So I just did years from 2000 to 2017, which you would put in here. These Latin years you would put in here instead. So now you have a smaller data frame with fewer years. So you can play around with that. If you want to sort those countries, you'll have to create your new code for sorting those countries. But that's pretty much it. You have enough information here to actually do all these scatter plots for Europe and Africa and Arab regions and all the rest. So give it a shot. Try it on your own. Play around with it. I'm here if you need help. Write down in the YouTube video underneath comments or questions, and I'll be more than happy to help. I hope you learned a lot. If you found value in this video, please like it, subscribe below so you're ready to hear another video or see another video that comes out next week and every week about different graphs and different data visualizations that you can do with Plotly, all in Python. Okay, so tip of the week. This week, what I would recommend is know your graphs very well. Here we jumped into how to do an animated scatter plot, but there are many different basics right here that you should know before you go into very complicated things. So really know your basics, know your bubble charts, your pie charts, your bar charts, some burst charts, which is very cool and horizontal, before you actually go into the complicated scientific charts or try to create complicated animations, because it's just a whole lot easier once you know the basics. And you really just need about 4 or 5 different graphs, usually the bar charts and the scatter plot or the pie charts, to help people understand or help yourself understand very trends in most data or most information out there. So just make sure you study them. If you have any questions, again, I'm here. Please let me know, and I hope to see you next time.